here comes an arrow ripping through between me and the decoy. I didn't shoot the decoy. This guy's just a terrible shot. I don't think he really should even be hunting. Okay, but and I watched.
Yeah, welcome to the IHUNT podcast. This is episode number 005 with Steve Hinson from Sentinel Decoys. I am your host, Jason Hamlin. I kind of held off a little bit on recording this intro because I wanted to give you guys an update on opening day of my turkey season. This morning I got to get out in the woods. It was opening day here in Ohio, and unfortunately I don't have a lot to report. It was a very slow morning in the woods. I got out last night and roosted a bird, knew exactly where he was at. Woke up bright and early, got up at 4 a.m., got out to the woods at about 5:15, 5:30, was the first person there, which is great on public land. Didn't see any other cars in the parking lot, so I was feeling really optimistic about the morning. Then I get out there and I start making my way to my spot, and I don't know what the hell I did, but somehow I got all turned around and ended up in the complete opposite direction of where I wanted to go. I must have zigged when I wanted to zag. I was walking, and all of a sudden I was like, man, I really should be getting close to my spot by now. The woods should start opening up, and they hadn't. So I pulled up my GPS, and man, I was at the complete opposite end of the woods. I don't know what I did. So I had to kind of track my way back. I tried to cut a straight line to where I wanted to be, and that didn't work out. I ended up hitting thorn bushes and sticker bushes and got all tangled up in the dark, and it was a mess. But I ended up making it to my spot. I actually had to stop a little early because I started hearing them gobbling, and I wanted to kind of get set up. So I sat down, and I had the bird gobbling on the roost. He answered my call twice, and then after fly down, he gobbled once, and he had went the opposite direction, and that was it. All the birds that were gobbling on the roost shut up the minute they got down. I don't know if it was the weather, if it was the pressure from youth season this weekend, just the activity that was in the woods, but these birds just went on complete lockdown. I'm guessing they henned up. It was kind of the same situation I ran into last weekend when I was doing some scouting, but at least last weekend when I was in the woods, they started back, and I heard a few gobbles late in the morning around 9 and 10, but this morning it was nothing. I just sat in one spot, tried to get up and do some moving around, but I mean, it's kind of hard to actually move and to plan your next point of attack when they're not making any noise. They weren't responding to any locator calls. None of the calls I was using was working. I didn't hear gobbles anywhere. I mean, it was a pretty disappointing morning, but it was still better than being at work, and I'm so confident that I just got to keep putting in the time, putting in the effort, putting in the energy, and it'll all pay off. I do want to congratulate my buddy Joey. He actually got a bird this morning out in Jackson County, some property him and his dad owns. I should have went out there this morning. That was my original game plan, but I knew they had a few other people hunting out there this morning. I didn't want to make it too crowded, and plus it was a 2-hour drive as opposed to a 45-minute drive, and I should have gotten up at 3 a.m., I guess, and drove to Jackson County, and maybe I would have seen some action. He said they were gobbling all over the place down there, but it is what it is. It's hunting. Nothing's ever going to go your way out there. That's what keeps us going and keeps us at it and makes it fun, is the challenge of getting out there and trying to figure out what the hell these animals are going to do. But I hope all of you out there your season's probably underway or maybe wrapping up. I know I've seen a lot of success coming in on Twitter. A lot of your guys' Twitter feed are showing some turkeys, so I'm excited about that and happy for all of you out there who have successfully harvested a bird. If you would like to share that picture with some people, you can tag me in it on Twitter, and I will make sure to get that posted up on our Facebook page. If you haven't visited our Facebook page, please do so and like the Facebook page. I do believe I'm up to 26 likes now on the Facebook page, so we are growing rapidly. And also, I know I've said it before and I'll say it again, please leave us a review on iTunes, on Stitcher. These reviews really do a lot for a small podcast like myself. It's a great way to move the show up in the rankings and make it more visible for more people to find it. So I ask if you got the time, just take 5 minutes after the show and go to find our show on iTunes, find it on Stitcher. I know Stitcher's a little harder to actually find the show page to leave a review, but if you can just do that for me, I would greatly appreciate it. And on the show today, I mentioned it earlier, we have Steve Hinson. Now, Steve is the creator of that crazy three-headed decoy that I know you all have seen on Twitter. You've seen the videos of it. If you have not seen the video, I would suggest you go to deardecoy.org and check out the video before you listen, or you can even go to YouTube and just do a search for three-headed deer decoy, and his is the first ones that pop up. He's the only one that has one, so check it out so you can kind of get some context of the decoy that we're going to be talking about. Steve's a great guy. He's got a great... Oh, damn it, I should have turned my phone off. Sorry, guys, but I'm not going to re-record this because I'm already 6 minutes in, and you're just going to have to deal with that phone ringing. But Steve's a great guy. He's got a very innovative product. I had to have him on to figure out how he came up with it, and it's a pretty good story. And I think we have a lot of fun. So you can follow Steve just on Twitter. Just look up Sentinel Decoys, or I believe it's Steve Hinson. That's Hinson. I'm sorry, Steven Hinson, StevenHinson 5. That's how you can find him on Twitter. He's always posts a lot of good videos of his decoys. He even gives out a free one to all of his followers every month. So if you'd like an opportunity to win one, then go on there. And if you don't win, I would suggest you buying one for this upcoming season. So without further ado, I bring to you Mr. Steve Hinson. All right, well, I would like to welcome to the show from Sentinel Decoys, the creator behind that crazy-looking three-headed decoy out there, Mr. Steve Hinson. Did I say that right, Hinson?
That's correct.
All right, perfect. How are you doing up there in the great state of Michigan?
Well, we got us a beautiful day today, and I just spent an hour with my new grandson, first time babysitting him, so things are good.
Oh, my goodness. How old is he?
Just 3.5 months.
Oh, wow. So he is brand new. I remember those days. My boy is 3 years old now, and I don't miss those days at all, even though sometimes I do miss them because at least when they're 3.5 months old, they're not moving too much, and they're a little easier to watch than now he's getting into everything.
Yeah, that's it's my first grandson, so that's always special, I think.
Well, congratulations on that. Now, I say the great state of Michigan, and when I say that with a little bit of reservation, because I love the lakes in Michigan, I love the beautiful landscape of Michigan, but there's just some big blue school up there that just puts a bad taste in my mouth about the state of Michigan.
I know exactly. I got my daughter and son are both graduates of that school.
So I probably just hit a nerve.
Although I was just talking to my daughter when she picked up my grandson, and she's still a Michigan State fan. Even though she went to U of M, she likes Michigan State. So that's the world we live in, I guess.
Yeah, we actually went on an Ohio State Buckeye cruise. Me and my family did in February, so I got to meet a lot of the players, Urban Meyer, and I mean it was a great experience. So my family's bleeds scarlet and gray, so we'll set those aside for right now.
Hunting can do that, can it? You know, hunting, fishing, we can just drop all that.
So I know right now you're into the decoy business, but I wanted to kind of get into what did you do before you were making decoys?
Well, I still have a day job, of course, and this is something that about 2 years ago I came up with. But I'm a golf course superintendent on my day job, and I've always worked in the ski and golf industry after the automotive industry kind of went down here in the 80s.
Yeah, that's another big sour grapes on Michigan is the whole Detroit, the city of Detroit, and that kind of puts a bad taste in people's mouth when they start thinking about Michigan. And there's so much more to Michigan than that.
Yeah, there sure is, and I work in these smaller resorts down here in southeastern Michigan. I'm just right at the edge of mid-Michigan here in the Grand Blanc area. So kind of southeast, but sort of mid-Michigan, out in the middle of, farm country, sort of. And so that's, how I kind of got into them. Just decided that decoying was something that I was interested in. It was just sort of a hobby that sort of developed into this, and so that's where I'm at now. And it's just, I think anybody that's been watching this on Twitter or anything else is seeing this product develop, so, that's where we're at.
Yeah, I've went back and watched your videos from starting back in 2015 and seen how the product's developed, and you guys have came a long way.
It sure has. The original idea still had that, old decoy mentality kind of with it. And as time went on and, just talking to people that bought them over the last couple of years and, just my own experiences with them. And just sort of came along here and trying to get that nice little lightweight decoy that's effective, and trying to keep the cost down on it. I run a survey there on Twitter, and that's the number one thing they were talking about is just the cost. I mean, disposable income in the hunting industry is, limited.
Yeah, it is.
All the products out there.
So what is your hunting history entail? How long have you been a woodsman and into hunting?
Well, I've been a whitetail hunter for this. I was just thinking about this. This will be my 40th year coming up. So, been out chasing whitetails. It was, I maybe not in the classic sense. I didn't really, hunt with my father so much or my grandfather, but they were both deer hunters. And, it's just the way timing is. I was the last of 5 kids. So by the time I was there, he was too busy, and so I kind of went along on my own and started gun hunting with some friends at 16. And then when I went to college up in the UP in Michigan, the boys got me out there bow hunting, and that was that for that. I had an old Indian compound with it didn't have a string, it had the cable all the way through. The whole thing was a cable, so
So it's been quite some time. It's safe to say that bows have evolved a lot since when you started bow hunting.
Yeah, but I still hunt with probably a 15-year-old PSC. That's just, my comfort zone. So it's just how I am.
Yeah, I actually, when I got into hunting, my wife actually made that push because she bought me my first bow for Christmas actually 3 years ago, and she bought it secondhand from one of her friend's husbands that she had known, and I had made the intention of getting this bow, and this was going to be my starter bow, and as I progressed in the hunting, I would upgrade, but I killed deer with this bow, and I like this bow, and now it's like, I don't want to get a new bow. And I think you get comfortable with, like you said, yours was what, how old is yours?
Probably 15 years. Yeah, I real close to that. And I just got it redone down the road here, a couple of years ago, and had them take a good look at it. It's just, you see anything wrong with this thing? I was like, no, it's all good. So
it still shoots. It's still accurate. That's all that matters.
Yeah, that's what I feel. And it's a comfort thing. And I'm 56 now, so a lot of guys my age are just jumping right into crossbows. But I still got the pull to do it. So I just feel, I'm gonna be that way for a while until I just can't do that.
Hey, I admire that. 56 years old and still getting out and pulling the bow back. And it's easy to say I'd go to a crossbow, but to put in the work to make sure you're still able to be proficient with that weapon, and I mean, 56 isn't old, but it's definitely older than 32 where I'm
Well, I do. I worked out, like I said, at the golf course and ski business all these years, and keeping you outdoors all the time, year round, it keeps you a little younger.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. Being outside will definitely keep you young. Now, is it mostly white-tailed deer is been your target species, or have you do any turkey hunting or any black bear, anything like that?
No, just the whitetail. Turkeys right in my area. Especially in the last, time's a little limited for me. It just seems like work has gotten more and more, and time is what it is. But the turkeys around it, just in my area, just kind of coming in a little bit more. I see them around and everything, and there's certainly some guys that are doing that. And bear. When I was up in the UP, when I was young, we hauled all that bait around and everything like that. But at the end of the day, we had that old, Indian compound, and I don't think my friend's was much better. But he had his girlfriend there that had a donut shop, and we kept hauling it out there, and it was getting hit. But at the end of the day, we were afraid to sit up there because neither one of us had a sidearm or anything like that. But we gave away a lot of donuts.
Yeah, you were just fattening them up for somebody else.
Well, that where I was at was over there in Gilgibby County, and there's some big Bruins over there. Really are some big bears over there.
Yeah, when it comes down to trying to, knowing that you're essentially throwing a stick at this animal that can climb up that tree and can come after you if you make a bad shot. One day maybe I'll do it.
Yeah, and like I said, the turkey's been. I applied a few times when years ago for some up north stuff, and that just never got it. At that time, there was a more limited thing. But, maybe one of these days I'll pick it up.
It's never too late to start. So when did you start using decoys in your pursuit for the white-tailed deer?
Well, 2008 or so, I shot a nice 11-point buck, and it wasn't with a decoy or anything like that. And shortly thereafter, a couple of years, I just had trouble, and so I'm at home one day, and the wife says to me, I saw a buck out in the backyard this morning. I said, really? Half believer, but I know I got to believe her, so I got to go out and look around for some prints and stuff. And, so I get out there, and I've got 4 acres here. My neighbor's got 6. So we got like 10 acres, but there's 2 houses. But behind us is a huge, wide open field, probably 3/4 of a mile across.
Wow.
And and so it's a huge. But there's woodlots to the north, woodlots to the south, and these deer. The thing about it is, I'm like the first fence row all the way from basically US 23. So they would use my area there. And she says, "Well, I saw one out there today." So I go out and I look. Yeah, I see the prints. This must have been. So of course that night I gotta go, sit out there with my stool to see what's going on. And sure enough, here he comes. And sure enough, I'm turned the wrong direction, but, so I'm like, okay. So I just started looking around because there really wasn't any trees and stuff like that. So I just started looking around at, ways to hunt deer in open spaces. And, the first thing you run into is decoys. So That's kind of how I got started, with just these wide open areas, trying to lure the deer into my backyard.
So essentially, what brought you into the decoys was you had some wide open space, and you were trying to get to pull the deer closer to your property so you can get a shot off, right?
Exactly. With a bow, trying to get them in tight. I would see some deer out there crossing this huge field from time to time and stuff. And it's one of those things where my backyard was also open, and so and it's like old kind of what I'm just going to call sour ground, where you'd have to really do a lot to get something to grow or anything, and I didn't have anything mature out there. So I also developed an angle with brush. So the old I think I read it in Outdoor Life in the 70s, funnel your buck, and so I built with brush fence rows to give it some, character. And I started noticing where the deer would come along into my backyard, and then they would angle off this big woodlot that was probably 400 yards away, but they would use the field to cross it. So I just trying to get them to, come in there more consistently and come right and sort of funnel them through this area. So that's how I kind of got started. And then, you get, the trying to decoy different ways and all of that. So I just, one step led to another.
Let's go into that. What are some of the strategies? Because I've never really done much research into using a decoy. I've never done it. So what are some of the strategies? Like, is there different situations that tend to work where you're more successful with using a decoy?
Well, and then that is how I ultimately got to my decoy. I basically, where I was using what would be called a two-headed decoy. I built it myself. I remember I was watching the Lions on TV, So, boy, am I bored today. This is terrible. I think I'll build a decoy, So,
yeah, I'm a Bengals fan. I can relate.
So I did that, and I did what you would typically look at, the silhouette of a deer, but where but the head would be in the front, sort of like, you might say, like a feeding doe type of a thing, where the head's in the front. And it didn't take me long to find where you want to put the face on both sides so you get more of an advantage by having, two sides of this decoy. And the problem seemed to be with me was how to position it, and the whole idea was, you get them close. The closer they got, you want to do, your decoy to still be effective. You don't want to lose it at the end. And that's what happened to me in 2014, twice to the biggest bucks I'd seen, to that point. And I lost them.
Now, what is it that's losing the deer for the uninitiated? What is it that's losing the deer when you say that?
Well, so I'm using a 2D decoy, so that's a flat thing, and the deer came in and they like to circle. They like to circle to the downwind.
Right. Maybe
it's just the angle they come in on, and then all of a sudden they're looking down, which is nothing. There's that you see, and so the deer, just at that moment, I could just see it, and they just turn around and walk away.
Yeah, so the immediate red flag to you was that you're pulling the deer in. The 2D decoy was effective in that manner, but as they get close when you're a bow hunter, you need them to get close. They start circling around that decoy, and there comes a point where that decoy disappears in their line of sight because it's paper thin, right? That's
exactly. Yeah, but I learned that lesson, and that was an important lesson to learn. And because if you're observant of my new decoy, and how it's kind of made and designed and some of those things we'll talk about, but the parts like the ears, well, when they point right at you, they disappear also. And that was one of the lessons I learned from that when things are flat and looking right at you, they disappear. And so when I developed that decoy, when the ear's pointing at you, it disappears. Because there's 3 ears on my decoy. One of them's always missing because it's pointing right at you or right away from you. And at first I thought, well, how am I going to do this? Well, it disappears.
Well, anybody who has seen the video of your decoy can know how eerily effective it is. Literally, that head is moving with you all the way around the deer. I mean, it's not moving. It's very simple design, but it gives you that illusion that the deer is always looking towards the direction that you're coming from. So you don't have to play that guessing game of, I got to set it up this way because I'm anticipating him coming from this direction. I could see that being a very great attribute in a decoy.
And that, to me, I always tell my wife, I'm like, the folks on Twitter, they're watching the flashy video, because that's what that is. That there's something to be said about the way the decoy follows you around like that. And it's kind of interesting because and you can read a little bit about it, but I'm using animation. And animation is, if you always think of like Mickey Mouse, and you got a stack of papers and you rack the stack of papers, and Mickey Mouse will move across the page because each page is a little bit different and a little bit another step or whatever. So that's animation. Now on my decoy, I have 3 faces. But again, if you look close, there's actually 6. Because when that ear's pointing right at you, you're looking at 2 different faces that are matched together. Mm-hmm. So instead of just having 3 faces, there's actually 6. So instead of you racking the cards, you're walking. And so your walking creates that racking of the cards.
Yeah, that's an interesting comparison.
And I looked into that, and it's kind of interesting when I read. There was a real note here that animation, the original animation, according to Wikipedia, the very first ever people think, well, it was Walt Disney, but no, it wasn't. It was actually 5,000 years ago.
Really?
Over in the Mideast, they found this stone pot. And this stone pot had a picture of an ibex. And so there's one frame where there's just the ibex. The next frame is he's jumping sort of at this tree to get his food. And then the next one he's grabbing. And there was 6 pictures on this stone pot. And that's considered this day to be the original animation.
5,000 years ago. Wow.
And I just stumbled in. So it had 6 pictures, and my decoy's got 6 pictures. I thought that was kind of ironic. And it was an ibex, let alone.
Okay, so when did you have that aha moment that this is what you had to, that this is the direction you had to go? Like when was that aha moment?
It was actually in June, 2 years ago in June. And I'd been thinking about these 2 experiences I had, which one was with the 2D decoy. I had one where I grunted this buck. He's 250 yards away. There was 3 bucks together, about 13 deer in the field, and I had been watching them for an hour and a half. And I had my 2D set up pointing the wrong direction. So there was they were just out there doing their milling around, all this in the middle of the field. So they broke up, and the 3 bucks come finally across in front of me, and the does went the other direction. And the lead buck finally caught sight of my decoy. And I'm grunting to beat the band because he's 250 yards away, so I'm really laying into it. Like, here he comes. And he's coming on the run. And so I'm up in I'm kind of like, I don't get too high up in trees, so I'm only about 12 feet. And here he comes, and I got this limb in front of me, so I got my bow on. Like, I'm all ready. I watched him come all the way. And he swung around in front, and here he is. He looks at that decoy, and it disappears to him. He turns right around, and the only shot I got at is his tail, and so that isn't going to happen. And he was just he was a fighter. He's missing his G3s. He come over for a fight.
He came over to bust some ass.
And it was just a beautiful, beautiful deer. And then about 3 days later, I'm out doing the same kind of a thing, but I turned my decoy a little bit more. And first thing in the morning, it was the exact minute of shooting time. And here comes this beautiful 12-point right in front of me. He come right down the fence row. I never even knew he was coming. And he come right up to the decoy, and the same thing. He saw it. It was on that angle, but then he stepped right out, and he lost it. And then you just see their mind turn off, and he just walked away from me. So
yeah, it's a definite red flag. Deer don't just disappear into thin air. So
yeah, and so so I'm thinking about it, and that kind of stuff really sort of like now I got to do something. So I decided, well, let's put a front on this decoy. Let's put a front on it, and try to put a rear on it. So when they circle or anything like that happens, I got something to look at, and so I did that, and I out there, and I had my old decoy, and I sort of made this head up and shoved it on the decoy, and then I filmed it, and I walked around it, and I walked in the house, and I'm like, checked out the film, talking to the wife. I said, look at this. Doesn't this deer look like it's looking at me the whole time? Like, yeah, it does, you know. Of course, all the eyes and stuff were off, you know, but still it looked like it. I'm like, really, this is interesting. And I just, from that moment on, it was just one of those things. I'm like, I got to pursue this. And I just couldn't really just kind of give it up. So that's what I did.
That's interesting. So you were really just aiming for adding some depth to your decoy, and what turned out is the counter effect is you created something that essentially follows any deer in. I mean, it's kind of a side product that ends up being the big selling point in this decoy, I think, right?
I think so too, and it is. You know, it's an eye catcher on video. It catches people's eyes. Of course, once I built a few of them and cleaned it up, and started showing. I mean, the women in the office at work. Non-hunters all over the place, all kinds of people. What do you think of this? And they all, they can see. Any human being can see that's quite unusual.
So what are, I guess, I'm sure you've probably had a bunch of different materials you've used over the years and a bunch of different trial and error, but right now, what are they made out of? Well,
up to this year, I'd used white chloroplast, which is the plastic cardboard. Your typical political signs made out of that.
Right.
Right. That material. It's lightweight. It's super tough. It's really stands up to the weather. And up to this year, though, I'd only been able to really get the white. And so I was using more paint. And if anything, I wasn't liking how the whole painty thing was and everything. But this year, I finally got into some really nice brown. That was the right color. So it's impregnated all the way through the material. And so there's a little, I'm painting the eyes and the white on there, but not the whole body, which, to me is a lot better. It's going to stand up. And I haven't had problems with them breaking. I haven't had issues. I leave them outside most of the time, and I haven't even seen one, fade or anything like that yet.
So you're still hand painting them all, huh?
Well, stencils. It's kind of a stencil type process. You like to get them all the same, and I, this animation whole thing here. You start reading about it, and how you would get even more enhanced. How do you enhance that so the animation is stronger? And I read articles about animation tricks and things like that, about how once you were, once that frame disappears, let's just say there's a white dot there and then it disappears. Well, that gives the impression of movement. It's there and then it's gone. It's there, then it's gone. And I really emphasized the eyes. So the white around the eyes was, puffy and more. I'm trying to exaggerate that, but at the end of the day, if it doesn't, look more like a deer, then maybe the guys aren't going to appreciate it quite as much. What I'm trying to emphasize, I'm trying to use those animation tricks, but unless you kind of understand what I'm doing, then your first impression, it might not be as good.
Well, it seems like you've also over-exaggerated the white on the ears, too. Was that for the same effect?
Yeah, it's the ears, that's sort of like you're trying to get a position where it is moving. And in reality, if you look again, we talk about the 6 faces, the 3 faces that are obvious. The other 3 aren't so obvious, but at that same point in time, those ears switch from pointing forward to pointing back. The ears change position. When you're looking at the one face, they're pointing forward, and they're looking at the face next to it, the overlapping face, those ears are pointing back. So you're trying to get that illusion of movement even in the ears. As compared to, you might look at just artist's rendition of a deer's ear. It's just a different thing. I am trying to more emphasizing on the white, less on the brown, black type of thing. And you try to get things, and I try to make them so they're a little bit different, each, because as you would circle it, then the ears change, things appear, things disappear. It just enhances that effect.
Right. Well, what you lose in the realism of the design is what you gain in the movement and animation factor that you're trying to portray in this decoy, because that's what creates the whole effectiveness of this decoy. Isn't that it's going to blindly trick a deer into thinking it's a real deer? Isn't it kind of trigger that instinct of this deer is staring at me? I'm going to go over and check them out and see what they're, either if you got antlers on the decoy, then it's a sign of posture, like, for a fight, it could draw a buck in, or if it's a doe and during rut, it could be, this doe's checking me out, let me go check her out, kind of a reaction.
Well, yeah, there is, been other decoys that use different ear positions type of things, like that over the years. And I always look at mine being, when the ears are forward, it's like the doe looking at the buck going, I may not be your mama, but, I could be, okay? And then, but you go to the other position where the ears are back, and it's like, hey, big boy, I'm a pretty boy. I'm a pretty girl here. It's two totally different things. Just by ear position is that, animals are that way. And those are the subtleties that, I think, a buck's going to notice the ear position change, type of thing than us humans do ear position so much.
All right. Have you given much thought into going like a digital print onto your, like a digital print vinyl sticker onto your board that you're using as opposed to hand painting? Has that been something you've looked into or checked the cost on, or?
Yeah, I have, that screen printing was another possibility. I was working with a manufacturing guy this year, and he was doing more of that, looking into that type of a thing. And decoys themselves, it's a sort of a thing where it's the market, everything, the investment, type of thing, or, if you're going to pay retail, or maybe somebody's doing it in bulk. Pretty tough. It would probably, double the price. And I really wanted to keep the price down. I just thought that at least now where, I'm more, okay, let's introduce this to everybody, and let's see what happens. And I have the complete confidence that the deer themselves, are sold on, it looks like a deer. Maybe sometimes our biggest critics out there looking at it will say, well, you could do better on graphics type of thing, and I would love to see one done as a photo print type thing. That would be, I'd like to kind of do that. But just from what I have found, and that because of the printing on that, then you got to cut it out. Like they can laser cut out that stuff, that type of thing, and it would substantially raise the price.
Right. Well, we don't want to do that. No. We want it to be accessible so we can shoot more deer over it. Well, that's actually a good segue into my next question was, have you had any success using your decoys?
Well, I've had a little bit of an issue myself during this whole process. What happened is my wife and I became the caretakers of my mother, and my mother had Alzheimer's. And so for 3 years, we were, and there's really very little help. And my wife was a caretaker, but anybody that's been in this position knows that caretaker needs a caretaker.
Right.
To take care of each other. And that's one of the reasons I wasn't wandering far from home, trying to work out here. But, I made it, type of thing where, if I can get them in my backyard, that speaks more than going where they all are and watch them wander around the circles. I work at the golf course, and we have some. We don't have any resident deer down there, but we do get deer that come through when the acorns come down. You get some deer wandering through. It's kind of between the city and farmland, so I get some activity out there also. So but a golf.
So you're putting your decoys out on the golf. You're putting your decoys out on the golf course.
I after the last you see you got to figure out the people go and they got to finish hole 4 by an hour before dark, so you got that last hour to go out there and maybe number 4 and set a decoy up and see what happens, type of thing. And I would do it more for just to see what's going on and take some pictures and stuff. But and out here, my biggest thing that happened in my backyard was I had 4 decoys set up one morning. It was about November 7th, I guess, and this the corn was still up in the field, and here come this really nice mature 8-point, and here he comes. Now he come in my neighbor's yard, and he saw the first decoy. And this is something that anybody that gets one of my decoys, you just have to remember this: if that buck checks the wind, get ready. If he sees the decoy, checks the wind, he's coming. Mm-hmm. He's coming. He's not. That is this what is I've seen. They come in. If I just could talk for a minute about just one of my theories about decoying in general and what maybe people have seen over the years. I think, and I call it the hearing zone. Okay, when you have your decoys set up and the deer comes in, and if you've watched any videos and stuff, or just people, sometimes bucks get suspicious. I think it's sort of got decoying a little bit. People, the buck's suspicious of that decoy. Okay, that's just a big thing. And I think why they do that is because when they come into a point and they see the decoy and they don't see a reaction, the decoy didn't hear them.
Right.
You can think about that. The decoy didn't hear me, and I know he should. Just like a doe will come in and kick her feet to create noise, to create a reaction. The buck knows that he came in, that decoy should have heard me. So there should be some sort of reaction, something. And in my decoys, what happens is that decoy's always looking at him. It's always,
right,
no matter what direction anybody comes in, it's looking at him. So the reaction to the buck, is, oh, he did hear me. He heard me. And, anybody that's been out hunting in fields and that, they've probably seen that scenario where does all of a sudden are looking off to the left. They're looking off to the left. They're hearing something before you do because they got radar ears. And then all of a sudden, here he comes chomping through the woods. Well, the deer are looking in that direction. And this was, to me, was just much more of a natural thing, okay? So when Mr. Buck sees the decoy looking at him and he's wanting to find out what's going on there, he'll check the wind. And when he checks the wind, you might as well get ready because he's coming all the way. He's not going to stop because he's not going to lock up on you because that suspicion isn't there.
Right. I mean, as long as you've taken the steps to cover up your scent, then yeah, when he does check the wind, he don't smell you, then yeah, he's coming in.
Yeah, and I am talking strictly about that scenario about visual, and then he knows at the hearing. So it stops him from thinking that. I'm not saying they think that every time, and people have success with decoys all the time, but it helps him not think that, and anybody that's been around, for years, dog obedience, showed dogs, ran tracking trials with dogs, a lot of dogs. And one thing to learn about animals is once they're distracted, it's hard to break them from that. Once he's suspicious, it's hard to stop them from being suspicious. So, that's just how animals think. They're more, that minute by moment type thing. And so that's how I look at it. I mean, people might argue that point with me, but I feel that way, that trying to just not even put that thought in his mind is right. The best way.
The way I approach hunting is I'm trying to find those little advantages that are going to add up over time. If something's going to give me a 5% edge, then I'm going to use it, and hopefully all those 5% is going to add up to make a difference of being successful in a harvest for the season or not. And I think there are definitely situations where a decoy such as yours it's not going to be the end all be all to where you're going to set out and you're going to see a deer every time you hunt. But is it going to increase the odds of that deer coming in by 10, 15, 20%? That's going to add up in the long run over using that decoy over the years,
I think so, and it was kind of funny. I was strictly a doe decoy. I mean, I didn't give the buck decoy in my earliest time, really much thought. I didn't, and then I was out in Michigan out of doors, and I got meeting Jimmy Gretzinger and stuff, and he's like, "You got a buck decoy?" I'm like, "Well, I just really didn't think of it, It's like, right. So I'll give Jimmy Gretzinger credit for giving me the buck decoy, and the antlers is a whole process in itself, and that's something I changed this year from prior years. I made a buck decoy and I made a doe decoy. So this year we worked it out, and I just finishing up getting the removable antlers. So you can it'll be a doe and then a young buck. Yeah,
that's perfect.
You can make a small 8 point. So you can just pull those antlers off or put them on. And
is it 2 decoys for the price of 1?
Yeah, well, you can sure look at it that way, because I think there's a time for both. I'm like the doe decoy, most of the time myself. It's just always been that way. But there's a time when them bucks are running and they're trying to run off. There's a time to bring them in, for sure. And
yeah, just me looking at it from somebody who's never used a decoy, I would think that pre-rut, when they're establishing their pecking order, that you'd want to have antlers on. And once the rut kicks in and those does are going to estrus, take the antlers off and put out some doe estrus with your decoy.
Yeah, it's and that was kind of in my time. I've been trying my decoy. I haven't used since, and I just because I wanted to go on the merit of the decoy.
Right.
I'll spray it down, decent, but I'm not putting out, because I just really wanted to go on the merits of the decoy. What is it, and what's the reaction? That's to me, and so there's a lot of scenarios there with different scents and some of the calming scents and different things. I'm a big advocate of using 2 of them. I like using 2. I like using 1 out just about, just shy of your shooting distance, sort of like, he's the point man out there. And then you got another one kind of tucked up tighter by you that maybe is almost a little bit hidden. So if something comes up close, that'll appear, and you just might get that best shot right there with that one. So I like using 2. And I was saying before, I had used 4, and I had this mature buck come in, and he stopped at 6 yards at all 4 decoys.
Really?
And just kept moving on. But it was my own fumbling up in the tree that just got him. And it was kind of funny, even at that point with these other, because, if you think about, well, he's got one looking at him, he looks over, the other one's looking at him. And, he's real confident in there, This old fumbling Steve just still isn't going to get his shot, So, I'm kind of that, I can get myself around some bucks. I'm not the greatest finisher in the world.
Well, since we're being honest, you say you like to use 2, but I've seen some of your videos. It seems to me you like to use like 12 decoys.
No, well, I was just trying to. The one I trying to make my, that they all 12 will, look at you at the same time. So yeah, but multiple. There's something to be said. The classic is the buck doe, laying doe scenario. That's just one classical one like that. I like using 2, but I won't put them like if I use 2 does in a field. I don't typically put them close by each other. I spread them out a little bit. I think they stick out in the field a little bit better. If you put them closer from a distance, it's a little hard to tell what's going on there. But if you spread them out, you kind of see them a little bit better in my book. And for that reason too, because if he was to walk right between the 2 and turn around, they're all still looking at him. I think that's pretty effective.
Plus, I mean, the more you have out there, I think the more confidence they'd have that everything is at ease and they have no threats, and to make them feel a bit more confident and stepping out there in the open for you.
Like it does bring out confidence in deer, just decoying in general. If you have your decoy out, deer tend to come out, in the fields earlier, I believe. Right,
because what I've always heard is your mature bucks are going to wait till those first few deer enter a field. So I imagine there's the mature does are doing the same thing too. Like so once they see one in the field, they feel like it's safe, and then they're going to make their way out in there.
And it seems that way. And the does will come out, but they won't come over to the decoy. They tend to always come out and eat first. It's just how they are. They're hungry. That's why they're there. They go and eat first, and then they start wandering around. But what I found with like bigger groups of does, they really don't come up to the decoy as much. They stand out. They'll stand there and look at it like, well, why don't you come over here? If you have a group of does, and a big mature does leading them, she's not coming over to that. She'll stand there and it just looks like, are you going to come over here? That's how I see it.
Now, I know you're selling some now. So are you getting any feedback from your customers? And if so, like, what are they saying?
Well, and they're saying what I'm saying. And my friends, my workmates and the other people that I've got them out to, what's happening is the typical scenario is the deer's going to come in and he tends to lock down on it at about 5, 6, 7 yards and stare at it. That's just, they don't typically come right up to it. They come up, they stare at it, and it's the position of it that's going to give you the shot or the not. I can't say that the people are everybody that I sold them to. Like the first year, I was on the Michigan Outdoor, so that was my launch pad there and everything, and it was people that I think people that buy decoys are people that maybe are having trouble getting deer,
right?
Or maybe they're seeing deer, or they've seen deer, but it's just way too far away or what. But they're people that are looking for a new way to get deer, and sometimes those people, might continually have bad luck or just in the wrong spot to hunt, or there isn't that many deer around where they're at. 100 reasons why. So the feedback, I got more feedback about the product itself. Just for example, I did send 2 out to Oklahoma last year. Guy got him, 3 days later, he's out there and he shot his nice 10-point. I got his pictures on my Twitter feed there, but he shot the nice 10-point there. And next day, sent him out there again. The does come in, he got his does. So, and he was big on that. So, there's different examples of that. I wish I had video of some of this. The people that have had them in their hands are not people that necessarily do that.
Well, yeah. Well, videoing a hunt is a hell of a lot harder than actually hunting in itself. But that's what I was going to actually get into. Is I know that, you've been saying you're trying to get the price point low, but I think the thing that you need to do is you need video of it, because I think once people see it working and see it in action, I don't think it matters what you charge them. I know the way hunters are, you know. I mean, if it works, if you see it work, you could charge whatever you want, and it may even be as simple as not getting somebody to actually record or hunt. But have you thought about have you went the route of trail cameras around it and trying to at least get video or still pictures?
Oh, yeah. No, that is true. I did the trail. In fact, I just got my first trail cam 2 years ago, so it hasn't been that long. But I just couldn't get any daylight stuff. But I do have like pictures of just a classic shot of of a nice. I think he's an 8-point standing there, just locked right down. You can tell he's just standing there, even though it's 4:00 in the morning, and staring it down. Some other stuff, wandering around it. But it was all nighttime stuff. It just, where I'm at here, like that. But that, you're right. It's a tough thing. It's just, again, these last few years and just the people and trying to keep up with the decoys. And, it's just a challenge for me to get out and do that. Just time limitations.
Assistant, so, it sounds like.
I'm hoping people this year get out and do that. And that's one of the reasons, I kind of kept it, at the cheapest price I possibly could to, get in some hands of some guys that, do that sort of thing.
Well, I know you've been giving one away every month on Twitter. I would the people you're giving them to for free, ask them to try to get some trail camera pictures with it. I mean, I'll put it out there right now. If you got one for free from Steve, then get a picture of some deer in front of this damn decoy for him.
No, you're exactly right. It'll come. Just one thing, about the whole thing and me and this deer. I'm glad to take it slow. I want to get. I've always 100% stood behind what I'm building here. Anybody's got any issues, I'm just a phone call away, and I'll answer that call and talk to anybody about whatever they want to talk to. Anybody who wants to discuss this decoy, you're welcome to on Twitter. I'm glad to do that. I think I learned a while ago, just start small and just, I want people to do it as best I can. How well I can carry on the whole business forever, I don't know, whether it would be something that I'll do all the way through my retirement. I don't know. We'll see.
I hope you do. Because you seem very passionate about it, and obviously if you're out there hand painting decoys, that you obviously enjoy it. So I love it when I see people finding something that they're passionate about and able to and making strides to make that be their income and how they support their family. Because, I mean, that's what satisfaction in life is, in my opinion. And that's what kind of got me into podcasting, is I know right now that I'm not a very good podcaster, but hopefully after about 20, 30, 40 of these, you got to crawl before you walk, that I'll be better, and that's, like you said, take it slow and crawl before you walk. If it works, people are going to start talking about it even more. You're going to get some video of it, and I am putting the word out to anybody out there who does shoot, who does take video of themselves hunting. Reach out to Steve on Twitter. What's your Twitter handle again? I just don't know it offhand.
I'm Steven Hinson 5.
Okay. Reach out to him on Twitter, and I don't know, maybe you guys can work something out, Because I'd really like to see. I'd really like to see this thing in action.
Yeah, people have, and I've pretty much let everybody know that they're going to be available in July. We're just finishing up, getting all the materials and everything in line here, and then just like working on the website. My son does that for me, and he's just got his finals this week and come together as far as the sales and stuff. But people are welcome to, if you want to talk to me about that or anything about being field staff type person or anything like that. I've talked to a few people already. So I just want to have, I'm actually going to produce probably, I'm going to make a first run here at my, 2017 model here pretty soon. So I'll have some that, sitting around. So some of you guys, want to get one out there by the feeder or something. I'd be glad to talk to you about it. Cause that's what some people, they put them by their feeders and they swear that the deer come in easier. It's just, they'll put them in a little bit of a brushy area nearby, and they really believe that deer come in easier and earlier at night. It's one of the things I've heard.
Well, I'm a believer in the product. I haven't got to use it yet, just from the video. I had to reach out to you to get you on the show to figure out how you came up with it, because, like I said, it's totally unique to anything I've seen. And I actually did do a search, and I saw some four-headed one that looked absolutely ridiculous. Yours is 10 times better.
No, there's not. There's that one you're talking about has been around for a while. It's that one there. If you're talking about the same one, if you put one of mine right next to it, it might be good. And people that might have some 3Ds and stuff, you might think about just getting this to be the doe next to it. That might be enough to help out, your big buck 3D, if you wanted that sidekick doe or whatever, that's, as an addition to what you're doing. My decoy weighs a pound.
That's it, huh?
And that's it, 1 pound. So it's made out of the chloroplast. It folds up like a jackknife. I haven't shown that. I do want to put that up on Twitter. The legs fold up, right into the body, and then the body collapses. So what you have is basically a 16 by 36. Okay, that's the size of it. It weighs a pound. And the best thing to set it up on is an old arrow. Okay, I'm going to provide a stake. As much as my wife and I argued about this, tell them just use an old arrow. Then I got to provide a stake, because when you get it, I want it ready to hunt. It comes fully assembled. It just comes in a cardboard box. But you could take the arrow, and the nice thing about this is that you can do two things. You can take the decoy, take a little bungee cord, and attach it to your bow. Okay, so you don't not carrying something extra, and just have a little one loop thing, so it just sort of sits. And then when you go to set your bow down, when you're checking your trail cams on the way in or way out, and everybody's always looking for, I know I am, even with that 15-year-old bow, when you go to set your bow down on the ground, you're looking for something to set it on. Well, if you have your little decoy attached there, you can just set it on the ground on that. And then the stand, well, the old arrow or the stake that I'll send you, that goes right in your quiver.
Oh, yeah.
So now you're carrying this 1 pound decoy on the side of your bow with the stake in the quiver. So you're not, because that's the other biggest thing about, I get tired of carrying this thing in the woods. So, I'm trying to help that along. And that's just something I do when I'm out wandering around a little bit. I just attach it right to my bow.
That's a great tip. Now, is there one thing that I hunt public land, right? Is there any concern that you would have with using this on public land? Because with the way the animation deer, it would trick a human eye too. Are you worried about getting, should I be worried about somebody shooting my decoy?
It's happened to me.
It has
happened to me. Yeah. And in my own backyard, of all places.
Oh, I gotta hear about
public land in my own backyard. And I'm going to, every decoy I sell is going to have this on it. This is for archery only seasons. That's really what it's for. It's the intent of it is for archery only. Of course, people don't always listen, and I wish they would, because there is something to be said about that.
It's dangerous.
You're right. There is something to be said about that. In my case, what happened, I just went out, my typical thing, put my decoy up. Well, my neighbor had invited this older gentleman to come over, and because they see deer, she's got a small pond in her backyard, so they see deer. So here he is. I think he was asleep when I got there. Okay. So I go and I set my decoy up, and, it's only 15 yards in front of me. And so I get up in my blind. Not 15 minutes later, here comes an arrow ripping through between me and the decoy. I didn't shoot the decoy. This guy's just a terrible shot. I don't think he really should even be hunting, okay? But here, and I watched the arrow ripping through the grapevines, and I was like, well, see, I didn't know what happened. All I knew was an arrow flew, okay? And there's a little bit of a rise there, and I thought, well, somebody shot, and then it went over this hill, and they just couldn't see me, the decoy, or anything. And now I'm hearing the steps. So now I'm getting ready. Because I know that here he comes. Here comes Mr. Buck, he's coming. No, it's this guy, he walks right up to my decoy and gives it the once-over. He's just standing there, and I'm looking at him. He never even looked up at me. He's just, like, standing there looking. He never went and looked for his arrow. He turned around, went and got his bow, his seat, and everything else, turned around and left.
He's probably embarrassed.
This guy's probably never hunted again in his life. Seriously. But, and there was just that across Twitter, about the turkey deal. There was this guy got shot there, decoys, you got to watch what you're doing. But, that's my thing. Archery only. That's what it's all about, really. This is an archery decoy, for sure.
Be safe. Gun season. Put the decoy up. And hopefully you don't have a blind old man hunting 20 yards from you who's going to shoot your decoy with mics up. I don't know. He was old. I'm assuming he was old.
Oh, yeah. He was old. It was unfun. And then, I could have said anything at that time, and I was standing there in amazement, just watching, just turn around and walk away. I never said a word to him. And he never looked up. If he would have looked up, I would have said something. He never had a clue.
You're a better man than I am. I would have said, what the hell are you doing?
Well, they had given me a little bit of fair warning, They were trying to get me to take this old man up in my blind with me a few weeks before that, I think. It was not too long. I knew he was around, but I didn't know he was there that day. So that was...
I would say the offer was off the table after that.
For sure. I don't think he hunted again. If it was me, I wouldn't hunt again either. I don't think I would.
Well, Steve, I know you're probably not going to believe this, but we have just hit the hour mark. It flew by.
Yeah, we did fly by. I really enjoyed it. I appreciate you getting me on. And like I say, people, I appreciate it because I'm just on Twitter. I'm not even out there on Facebook or anything like that. So, I'm a 56-year-old man that got into Twitter. That's about all I can handle. But
hey, I just started social media about 3 months ago. And I'm 32. So I swore off of it until now. I was like, well, I kind of have to get on social media now if I want to do a podcast. So, but why don't you let people, before we wrap up, let people know where they can find you at, where they can follow you at, where they can, your website and all that good information.
Yeah, I'm Sentinel Decoys, Steve Hinson 5 on your Twitter. I try to get back, and anybody that's looking like they're a hunter or what that, I certainly follow you back, and welcome to chat about it. Anybody's got any questions that weren't answered on this, just message me. I'm glad I'll sit there and do that. And my decoys are going to be, right around $50 like that. It'll probably be about $12 for shipping, I think, is what we got to do on that, and the tax. So, for $65, $68, that's going to be.
Did you say $50? I thought you said these things were expensive. Correct. I was expecting $600 the way you were talking. $50, shit, that ain't nothing for a hunter.
No, that's I'm just trying to be fair with everybody and what we think. You're talking about something that's made out of corrugated plastic, and it is what it is. But I told everybody that that's what it's going to be, and I'm standing by that. It is what it is.
Well, to be honest, and, I've spent more on a quiver, and my quiver ain't getting me any more deer. So.
Yes. So, well, one of the reasons too, and I'm suggesting say, get 2 of them. I think 2 is a real effective way. You get to the rut, you can do the buck doe thing. You'll have the antlers to do that, and you can have that set, and you can do a lot of different scenarios. If you're hunting fence rows, you can put one on one side, one on the other. Do out the point man with the bait and switch. There's just other scenarios that work really well with 2. I like using, like I said, I've used up to 4 and have them come right to all of them. So, think about that. So, yeah, I'm at deerdecoy.org. The website's not really going right quite yet. I got to get Junior done with his finals here, and he said he'll take care of that. So, we won't really be selling them in July, but you guys out there, you want to be field staff type people or everything, you get a hold of me. And because I'm looking for the guys out there I'm looking for opinion, and I'm sure I'll get plenty of it.
Yeah, well, perfect. I do appreciate you coming on the show. Anytime you want to come on, just reach out to me, and we'll pick back up this conversation again. And when you do make your video of of how your decoy folds up, go ahead and tag me in that when you post it, and I'll go ahead and make sure to retweet it for you.
Yeah, we'll get that out. And I got some other stuff, some of the stuff we talked about today, what I think's going on with the decoy. It's, it caught as much as everybody else catches your attention. It just did the same thing to me. And I think God just put it in my lap for me to pursue, and I hope people enjoy it this fall.
Well, good luck with everything, and I wish you all the best, and I hope it takes off for you. I really do, Steve. You're a great guy, and thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Jason. Take care, buddy.
Thanks. Bye. All right, guys, that is the show. Thanks for listening. Check out Steve's website, deerdecoy.org. Check him out on Twitter, Sentinel Decoys. Follow us on Twitter follow me on Twitter at the IHUNT Podcast. Check out our Facebook page. You can just search the IHUNT Podcast on Facebook. Visit our website, www.theihuntpodcast.com. And please like, subscribe, rate, review, share. Do everything you can to help me promote this show if you like it. If you don't, then you probably aren't still listening to the show. So that's it. Thanks for listening. You guys have a great week and happy hunting. I will talk to you all later. Bye.
Here comes an arrow ripping through between me and the decoy. I didn't shoot the decoy. This guy's just a terrible shot. I don't think he really should even be hunting. Okay, but and I watched.